Hello Pisces, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of May 2022. So Pisces, I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to take a look at what the month might have in store so you can make the absolute most of it. This reading will be for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And just before we get started, as always, a reminder, these readings are general in nature, so not all of the information that comes through will necessarily apply to you. Definitely take anything and everything that does resonate, however that makes sense to your specific situation. Take anything with you that you feel may be beneficial or helpful throughout the month, and you can simply leave the rest. And also for those of you who are returning, this month I have tweaked my format a little bit. It was my intention to adjust the format so that the readings would be a little bit shorter than usual. I have cut down on time a little bit, but they're still really long. So I'm drawing less cards, but it seems to be there's still a lot of information that comes through. And it was only because April has been an absolutely crazy month, full of like events, and I've had a lot on my plate. It's been kind of stressful. My energy has been off for most of the month, and I was kind of considering not doing readings for May, but I'm feeling better now, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So I figured maybe adjusting the time of the video might be helpful in allowing me to prepare and record all 12 readings for the month of May. So yeah, still long, but hopefully not as long as usual. So I've got your one oracle card here. We'll pull you some tarot. I'll get you a couple of affirmations, and I will pull a second oracle card for you at the end, which instead of openly interpreting as I do with your first card, I will just read directly from the guidebook, and we'll see what kind of information that might offer to help tie everything together. And as usual, I will begin your reading with channeled messages. So technically channeling messages and information is what I do while I'm reading the cards during the reading. But at the beginning of the reading, I like to take time to connect to your energy before I get any cards out for you so that I can channel some information without any visual cues, just to see what comes through, just out of curiosity. So this month I kept your channeled messages at 5 for the sake of brevity. So we'll consider them kind of like a top 5. And right before we get into that, I will kind of give you some insight as to the energy that I was picking up, the impression that I was getting. So this may resonate for you a lot. It may not at all, but this is kind of just what I was picking up on before I even started channeling. And it was like a very kind of nervous feeling. So it's kind of like, when you get really nervous in anticipation for something, and it could be like good nerves or bad nerves, like something that you're absolutely afraid of and you're dreading, or something that like scares you because there's like it's exciting and new and you're looking forward to it. But it's kind of like that feeling when your palms start to sweat and you get like a bit of a knot in your stomach and like GI gastrointestinal kind of like issues. So it was like this kind of unsettled feeling. And it didn't feel like hyperactive, chaotic, like really super stressful and anxious, like an overactive kind of energy. There was a calmness to it, but is just kind of like feeling a little bit off. So maybe like a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, either like nervous anticipation in like a good way or in a bad way. But then there's also the sense of like with the gastrointestinal side of it, if you have a sensitive stomach or a sensitive system, like you're somebody who's like really sensitive to foods, or you experience a lot of gastrointestinal kind of like upset and symptoms. Obviously, like I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but if you're looking for a medical cause and you haven't found one, or perhaps you have, I would also maybe take into consideration your stress, your anxiety, like cortisol, just where your energy is at on a daily basis, because to be in that state of stress, like even just emotionally, can really trigger our system in that way as well. So that could be like potentially exacerbating like stomach issues for you. And then the other thing that kind of came up was like almost you might have a tendency, if there's something that you get really like nervous or anxious about, or something that you really worry about, like making yourself sick with worry, like to the point where it's like that knot in your stomach just like takes over, and it's like you physically don't feel well. And the other part of the impression that I kind of picked up on, it was like a very conservative energy. So being conservative, maybe about the decisions that you make, the moves that you make, what you say and do, how much you share with people. So it's kind of like feeling like you need to be really safe and really conservative in making moves in life. And I don't necessarily know that that's what you really want, but it could just be a sense of feeling like that's what you have to do, maybe like to protect your energy or to feel safe. So there could also be a sense of like needing to be really sure that something is absolutely 100% right and going to work out positively before you're willing to take a step in a new direction. Yeah, I don't know. It was a very interesting kind of energy. I would say more like on the quiet, timid side. So it could be that you have a really intense, like internal world. So it might not feel like really tumultuous and chaotic, but it just kind of seems like maybe there's a lot of potentially stress or anxiety or just things kind of keeping you in this place where you need to feel safe. You're playing it safe. Or that could be something that you struggle with. It doesn't have to be the energy that you're in, but it can also just be something that you have a tendency to fall into. So for your, the other thing that came through is like meditation music might be helpful for you, especially if you do, like I still have that feeling of that anxious knot in my stomach, like the knot that I get before things that I really don't want to do, or like I really don't align with me, right? I still have that knot in my stomach and it's making me feel weird. But yeah, so if you experience like a lot of physical symptoms of stress, especially, or worry, it might be helpful, even if you're not into meditation or it's not something that you really like connect with, even just to find some meditation music that you enjoy on YouTube or something and just like lay down and listen to some music and just take some deep breaths and relax, and it might help kind of like calm your nervous system down a little bit. So for your actual channeled messages, the first message that came through was, I don't know what to do. So obviously a sense of like either questioning yourself, questioning your direction, perhaps questioning people around you. There might be a specific situation that you're dealing with and the like appropriate approach or resolution isn't quite clear to you. Or it could be that you have an inkling as to what to do, but it's not something that's easy for you to accept or to move forward with. And so you kind of stick yourself in this energy like, I don't know what to do, because maybe following your gut or that first initial impulse could prove to be more challenging than maybe just putting up with whatever the situation is, or at least how you perceive it to be. So yeah, however that applies to you, that might be attached to a certain situation, but this could be a month to really focus on whatever's hanging over your head that you're feeling unclear about, and taking some time to connect with yourself and figuring out what you really want out of the situation or out of life, however that applies. The second message that came through was very strange. So it was, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. So I don't know. Obviously, it could have a connection to religion if you're like Catholic or Christian and anything like that. You don't have to be, but it could be it could be having to reconcile some thoughts or feelings maybe associated to religious beliefs or religious upbringing, or perhaps religious family members. That's like any connection to you have that you might still have to it, or you might have had to it in the past, that brings up anything to do with like feelings of guilt or shame, or feeling as though you need to be forgiven or other people think that you're doing something wrong. It could also be acknowledging that, maybe you have made some mistakes in the past. It doesn't have to be like on a really intense moral level. It might just be recognizing that you're looking to be forgiven for the things that you feel like you haven't met your potential on. Or it could be like a father figure specifically, perhaps some kind of disagreement, or, I don't know. however that applies to you, that was a really kind of confusing one for me. The next message that came through was intentional dishonesty. And like that was kind of tied to the idea of like lying by omission. And the feeling that I got connected to this was like situations with certain people that you have to either like lie, so maybe white lies, maybe just a bold-faced lie, maybe lying through omission, because it's not safe to speak openly with them. It's not safe to tell them the truth, or you don't feel safe to speak your truth and to share what you're experiencing or how you're really feeling, because you either think or you know that it will not be received well and it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. And so I would be mindful of any kind of situations or any kind of connections where you feel like you have to be dishonest, or you have to hide the truth or dance around the truth in order to protect somebody else's, not even necessarily feelings. Like I don't necessarily think that someone's going to be hurt by what you have said, but they just might not react well to it. Like they might not want to hear it. And they might not want to have to make adjustments if something that they're doing doesn't align, right? So you could be dealing with somebody who is a bit of like a narcissist also, or like who's very much focused on their wants, their needs, and kind of wants other people to fall in line, because those are usually the situations that make us feel uncomfortable speaking our truth. And this can also be like just having negative experiences in the past, perhaps standing up for yourself or speaking honestly and feeling as though that's bound to repeat itself. So any situation where you're feeling small or you're hiding your feelings, I would really investigate, because it might seem innocent at the time and you're just trying to protect another person or you're trying to protect your connection. But if you are taking on responsibility for hiding what you really feel and what's important to you because of somebody else, it's not just within the relationship or the connection that there's dishonesty, but you're also being dishonest to yourself. You're not honoring yourself. And that subconsciously is teaching you not to trust yourself on the most basic level, and not to value what your gut or your instincts or your emotions or your intuition is telling you about who you are and what's important to you. So I would just say, like, keep an eye on that if that does resonate for you. The fourth message that came through was searching for answers, and then kind of like this sense of like unlocking parts of yourself. So you might feel as though you're closed off from yourself, maybe from your past, certain experiences, maybe you're closed off from certain emotions. And it's kind of like wanting to do a deep dive to get to know yourself on a deeper level, and to start kind of unlocking the parts of you that have been hidden away, that perhaps you've dissociated from or you've kind of pushed down. And also unlocking the parts of yourself that you perhaps didn't even know was there, like getting to know yourself on a deeper level and giving yourself the chance to explore who you are in new ways to see how you might surprise yourself. So it's kind of like a very interesting energy. And the last message, to be honest, I was having a really hard time with your channeled messages because it was just a jumbled mess of stuff. It was like half words and like colors and thoughts and feelings, and like it was like a stew of chaos. And not chaos in a bad way, but just it was like random stuff, bits and pieces of random things. And so it was really hard for me to get like solid ideas out, right? And to kind of understand what was going on there. And I kind of got the sense that that might be what's going on with you. That might be something that you experienced, because the last thing that came through, it was stimulation overload. So it could be being a really sensitive person, being really sensitive to like sound, movement, clutter, just stimulation in your external environment, and that impacting you, your ability to focus, your ability to think, your ability to feel calm and focused and organized. And also like stimulation overload. If you are a sensitive or more intuitive person, I kind of get the sense that you might have a little bit more inclination in terms of like sensitivity to energy, or being intuitive, like psychic awareness. And so you might be picking up on just tons and tons and tons of stuff, and you might have a lot of stuff floating around in your awareness that you don't really quite know what it is or who it belongs to or where it's come from. And you might not necessarily know what's yours, or this might be something that you're aware of and that you're really working on, is recognizing that you pick up a lot from your external environment and the people around you. And it's like important for you to start determining like what is actually yours, what's representative of you and your feelings, and what is just like kind of clutter and noise that you've picked up from the outside. Because it was like a chaotic but calm energy. So it wasn't like hyperactive, but it's just like there's a lot going on there, to the point where there's like so much stuff and there's so much overstimulation that it's hard to make sense of anything. So I don't know if that might resonate for you. I would say like trying some grounding exercises, maybe meditation and breath work. And like the main things that come through for you in terms of thoughts, feelings, anxieties, it's like trying to follow those back and see if they have a root in your being and something that you relate to and experience. Because what I've noticed for myself is if I pick something up, like a feeling, for example, if I trace it back and I can't find a personal connection to it, then I know that it's not mine, because it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just experiencing it. And that makes it a little bit easier to like let it go. So you might be there might be like a lot of like psychic debris that you are floating in the middle of. Okay, so your oracle card for this month is number 44, and it's Thinker. So this is actually a very interesting card for you to get, especially with me just saying that like there could be a lot of chaos in terms of like stimulation. So either in your environment or like mental, emotional, spiritual noise. And so this card emphasizes the value of, rational, logical thought, strategy, planning, decision making. It's kind of like thinking, using your logical mind and the information that's available to you to make your life easier and to work through problems in the most direct manner. Because the problem with thinking is that we can use our brains to make things more efficient, right? And to find the most effective solution, but we can also use our brains to spiral into, overthinking, overanalysis. So it's recognizing that there's a difference between analyzing to help yourself and then like analyzing or overthinking like to a fault, where you're actually overcomplicating a situation. So you might need to bring your mental awareness and your thoughts and the way that you analyze information into balance this month, because it can be difficult to find that line, that middle ground between using the information to simplify your life and to your advantage and getting really caught up and overwhelmed in the details. So I think that's really good. And this is also emphasizing like this will likely be a good month, even if you are a sensitive, intuitive, emotional person, and that's like a major way that you receive information. It's acknowledging that you can incorporate that into your decision making, but logic and using like a rational mind is going to be helpful. It's going to be a strong suit for you this month. Especially if you're in situations that might be challenging, and it's like you may have a tendency on an emotional level to kind of fantasize about a situation, or fantasize your way out of trouble, and convince yourself that there's no problem there, or that things will turn out right, when perhaps the facts say otherwise, right? So it's kind of like, this is almost like a conservative energy, like being careful about how you're making decisions, the information that's available to you, and it's like not denying the facts, right? So if there are facts that are glaringly obvious, like especially in relationships and connection to other people, if they show you who they are, if they say who they are, it's like you have to kind of trust them. You have to take that as fact. And if you know for a fact that that doesn't sit well with you, it doesn't align, it's not healthy, it's not going to be beneficial. It's like, if that is fact, right? What are you going to do with that information? Because that's valuable information for you to make your decision on. And decisions become difficult, and it becomes difficult for us to move through our challenges when we begin to overthink, or when we try to like feel our way out of a situation, and deny the rational, logical side of us. So it's like, yeah, you might have a lot to ponder this month. And I don't necessarily know that you'll be making any major decisions, making any drastic moves or changes, but I think this is going to be a very good month for like potentially introspection. So this might be mostly in terms of your own personal development and your relation to yourself, your relationship with yourself. It could be in terms of your career goals. It could be in friendships, relationships with a significant other, in terms of like if you align, what you're moving toward, that kind of stuff. So I do get the sense that this will be a very good month for you to kind of check in with yourself, and see from a more rational point of view. So a little bit more emotionally removed. Of course, you can take your emotions and your intuition into consideration, but it's like if you kind of put those on the back burner a little bit and use logic. So it's like pros and cons, right? So sometimes the easiest way to make a decision or to get clarity is to make a list of pros and cons, right? And then the trouble becomes, if it's something that we're emotionally attached to, if we write a list of pros and cons and it's something that we don't want to disconnect from, but the cons are glaringly obvious. And if someone were to look at that and make a rational decision, like, do I stay or do I go? Or is this good or bad for me? If the cons list would indicate like there's no sense staying in that situation or continuing to participate in that, in that job or whatever is in question for you, however that might resonate for you, it's like we can keep ourselves in situations that don't make sense for us and that aren't necessarily healthy and that don't support our growth, because our emotions cause us to almost like deny the facts, and like we'll try to rationalize our way out of the rational decision by following emotions, right? So it's kind of like you might just need to do some analysis, some thinking, consider the facts, and really just try to weigh things from a more logical perspective to have a little bit more of a realistic approach in order to get some insight, get some clarity, and balance out so that you can make a decision across the board that's going to be beneficial for you. And in terms of decisions and knowing what's right for us, those decisions are not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be the decision that makes us feel good or that's easy and happy, right? Like sometimes, especially if it's something where it's like there's a long list of cons and it proves to be, something that's not worthwhile or something that's not healthy for us. If we have a strong emotional attachment that's positive, or we're codependent, or we're relying on that, we need that for to help us feel safe, or whatever the case may be, we can essentially keep ourselves in situations that are not good because we're trying to avoid feeling crappy. We're trying to avoid making the hard decision, because even if it's what's right for us, it still potentially will be difficult. It'll potentially be painful. It'll bring up other things that need to be healed. And it's not going to be this really straightforward, cut and dry movement or transition. So yeah. And like other things too, it's like when it comes to love and relationships and connecting with people, like love is not a logical thing, but it's kind of like when you're choosing the people that you surround yourself with and that you're giving your time and energy to, it's like obviously you want to be somewhat logical about it, right? You want it to be somebody that has like similar values and morals, similar goals, like that you have enough in common with that you can, that you can make it through, right? As a partnership rather than going in one person's direction or the other, right? So it's like to move through life as equals. And that can be romantic partnerships, friendships, any way that that applies to you. And it's kind of like, if there isn't enough common ground, then you don't have to force yourself to stay in a situation or stay with a person. And this applies to jobs too. It applies to anything that we can have an emotional connection to. It's like, if there isn't enough there, like in structurally, just in the foundation to keep you together or to keep things working in a healthy way, it's like you don't have to force it to work, because forcing it to work and forcing yourself to stay in that situation that you know isn't necessarily the best match is just keeping you from connecting to the opportunities that are potentially going to be more aligned, more healthy, right? Yeah, and this is kind of like when people tell you who they are, it's like you have to believe them, right? And so sometimes, like, we can romanticize things. We can romanticize jobs. We can romanticize partners. We can romanticize, like, our, goals that we're trying to achieve. But it's like, if someone straight up tells you who they are and it's not necessarily good, it's not, they're not necessarily supportive or loving or, aligned with you, it's like you have to believe them. And that can be a tough pill to swallow, right? Because sometimes love causes us to like fantasize about like, your life with this person, or you see all the good, or you question yourself. It's like, maybe I'm just being judgmental and like I'm the bad person, and not that there has to be a good and bad person, but yeah, it can be a complicated thing. So it's like, use logic to your advantage and give yourself a little bit of a break when it comes to the people that you're connecting with, and knowing that you can be discerning about that. And now is also just a really good time for you to take calculated action. So like, make a plan, get organized, write out step-by-step list of what it is that you plan to do in order to accomplish your goal, right? Because writing down a list not only causes you to think ahead and to determine like what is the potential best way that I can get to my end goal. Not that you have to be bound to each step specifically, because you can be flexible as you move along your path, but to just recognize that and then to write it down makes it real. So it's kind of like taking those intentions, taking those ideas and making it real. So it's not just something that's floating around in your brain with all of the other information and chaos that you have to like remember, right? It kind of like helps solidify that as something that is real and meaningful to you. And especially if you kind of get ungrounded or distracted or anxious or whatever, which can ultimately impact how we're feeling, how we perceive ourselves. It can impact our motivation. Having a list to go back to helps to kind of keep you on track and to keep you rational and logical when maybe you're ramped up in other areas of life. So that's a really interesting energy for you, Pisces. I'm going to get you some tarot cards. Oh my goodness. Okay, so your first card, funny, came up as the 9 of Wands. I'll get you. Your second card is the Page of Swords. Your third card is the 5 of Wands. Wow, this is very interesting. Let's get you one more card. Your fourth card is the Ace of Wands. I'm sorry, this is like kind of exciting for me. Okay, and you got the Tower at the bottom of the deck. Okay. So with the Tower being at the bottom of the deck, this is the energy that's kind of influencing all of this stuff for this month. So it could be something that's happened in the past that impacted you. It could be something that you're currently working through or that's coming, but it's kind of like, this is what it's connected to. And the Tower is all about, it can be like a loss, right? A major loss, a major shift and change. So it's something that would be on a large scale that would impact you in quite a significant way. It can be like a loss of a friend or family member. It can be like losing a job. It can be financial loss, losing material goods. Like, any kind of major like shock to the system where it's like something is changed and there's no getting it back. Like you can't necessarily like recuperate or undo the situation. It's happened and you're affected by it, and it's changed your reality in some way, and you have to kind of deal with that. And this doesn't have to be material or like rooted in the external world. This can also be like enlightenment, awareness. So coming to a new understanding of yourself and what you want, or a new understanding of how the world really works. So perhaps you've come to understand that certain limiting beliefs were nothing more than thoughts, and now you have like a whole new world of opportunity that's opened up to you, right? That can be a really wonderful thing, but it also is a shock to the system, right? Because it cuts down like the enlightenment and those new realizations, and having an elevated perspective can open up so many doors in a really wonderful way. But it also kind of causes us to shift because we've lost everything that we knew before, or the things that we thought that we knew, that we thought were stable, that we could rely on, the way of thinking about ourselves or the world and how things work. We can't connect to that anymore. Like the things that we thought were true or have proven not to be true. And now we have to kind of like reestablish a baseline based on where we are now, what we've experienced, what we know to be true. And then we have to start figuring out how to integrate that into our reality. So it can be a really difficult energy to deal with, but the positive takeaway is that it's always going to be opening you up to a new opportunity for learning and growth. And the way that I see it is to kind of step more into alignment with your authenticity, with what matters to you. There's a lot of valuable perspective to be gained. So that's kind of what's going on here. So it might be something that you've experienced, like it could have been like a spark of realization that was planted, and you're like, maybe you're not even ready to accept it or to acknowledge that it's something that you can integrate into your life, and it's like trying to figure out how to do that. Or it could be like loss of a job, money, stability, whatever the case may be. But this is something that we wouldn't necessarily see as being beneficial. It can be really painful and challenging, and it can be a hurtful kind of energy, but it's like ultimately for your best good, right? Because it's kind of removing the things that are not necessarily helping you and giving you a chance to kind of start fresh and build something new, right? The tower crumbles down to its foundations and you lose everything associated with it, but then you are in a position to rebuild, and you can rebuild something that is positive and meaningful to you and is better than what was there before, if that makes sense. So that's what's influencing this. So I don't know how that might apply to you, but it's like it would be a major shift in your life in some way. And you're being guided to come into the month of May in this 9 of Wands energy, which is very interesting because it kind of does align with what I was picking up on in terms of being a little bit conservative. Like for me, the 9 of Wands can be about like having a little bit of a wall up, right? So it's like sometimes it can be defenses. Sometimes it's just about taking time to survey the landscape, right? So it's like if you've been on a long journey and you've been putting a lot of work in, then it's like you don't want to make any rash decisions that could cause you to lose everything, right? So there is like a self-protective kind of energy to it. It can also be like, an overtired energy, right? Where it's like you need some time to rest, to get your bearings, to see, to process everything that you've been through, to take a look at what lays ahead, and to try and figure out what the best path forward will be so that you can make the most out of the energy that you have left. But it's kind of like, it can also be like the temptation to look behind when we really should be moving ahead, right? And it's acknowledging that if we are busy standing still, looking behind, and this is like a protective energy, right? Because she's standing behind a wall, looking back, and it's almost like feeling as though somebody might be on her heels or anticipating attack, right? And it's kind of like, yeah, so to a certain extent, we do have to be aware of potential threats or challenges, but we can't stagnate in like a comfort zone because we're afraid that if we turn our back to keep moving, everything is going to be taken away from us, or we're going to be taken down. So the path of Wands is all about your passion, your inspiration, your creativity, the things that light you up and that make you feel excited. And that energy, right, that inspiration, it's a creative energy and it's longing to be expressed in some way. That's different for each and every one of us, how we express that energy. But a lot of times I find that if it's not honored, if it's not valued, and if you don't have an outlet for it, a lot of the time it gets suppressed and it can become like anger and frustration, right? So it's kind of like recognizing that that energy is our fuel. That's the inspiration that's supposed to fuel us through life. And having that as an outlet lets us put that fuel to work and to be moved by it, and for our life experiences to be moved and shaped by that as well. And it's like, if you are not using that fuel, it's like you're just pushing it down, and it's kind of like pressurizing and it can make you volatile, right? So I think it's like, it's time to take a look at where you've been, what you've been through, especially in relation to what inspires you, your passion, your creativity. And it can be feeling as though like you're starting to get a little bit worn down or overburdened, because this is the last card before the 10 of Wands. And the 10 of Wands is all about like, it's kind of like being at the end of the road, and like you're carrying a whole bunch of weight and responsibility that isn't necessarily yours. And it's like the need to kind of release yourself of some of that weight, like whatever is making you feel worn down. Specifically, if there is any given situation where you're taking on more responsibility and you're putting in more work and effort than another person, it's kind of like, you can't do it all yourself, and you don't have to be carrying the burden of other people's experiences or emotions or responsibilities for them, right? Because that is just preventing you from making the most use of your energy. So I think taking a look back at what you've been through, what you've experienced, and kind of taking some time to regroup so that you can move forward intentionally and start heading in the direction of recognizing like what's yours, what's important to you, what do you want to be carrying with you on a new journey, like into your self-expression, and what is it that you've been carrying that's been holding you back or weighing you down, or potentially isn't even yours, right? Because sometimes we carry the weight for other people, and like this is part of partnerships too, is like we help each other out, but it's like you don't want to be carrying another person's load or burdens, right? And it's recognizing that we're all responsible for doing our own work, and so you might also be moving in the direction where it's like being willing to analyze, like even using this logical mind to say like, what path am I on? What's most important to me? What do I need to do to get there? What do I need to take with me to be successful? And then the rest, giving yourself permission to drop it. And especially if it's related to somebody else, it's knowing that the most loving thing that you can do is let that weight go and allow that person to start taking responsibility for their part of things, so that they can work through their own stuff, because doing it for them is not allowing them to learn their lessons, right? But yeah, so it's like you could kind of feel like you're at the end of a long road. And so I think it's just important to kind of, to take some time to analyze like what's been going on, how it's been working for you, because you have the benefit of having a lot of experiences under your belt. So now it's time to kind of gather what that's done for you, how that's changed you, the approach that you've taken thus far. Has it been working for you? Is there anything that you can tweak? And to move in the direction of kind of closing out a cycle and being prepared to let go of the stuff that isn't necessarily serving you anymore. So yeah, it is a very self-focused, conservative energy, and it takes confidence to be able to do that, right? So your challenge for this month is coming up as the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is all about like being on a journey to connect with new information, like wisdom, to be educated, to gain additional insight and awareness, right? It's a very studious, open-minded kind of energy, and it is it's being like a perpetual student of life and life's experiences. And so there's a very free kind of energy about this, right? And it's like being willing to it's being willing to like lay down your beliefs, your expectations, your assumptions, your biases, and to kind of open up your mind a little bit to what life can teach you, what other people can teach you, the information that's out there. And you don't have to accept all information like without discernment or take it on as your own, but it's using your own your own awareness to kind of accept information, see what might be learned, and still at the end of the day take away what feels true to you, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to just follow the path and believe everything that's told to you. You can still determine for yourself, but it's about not blocking yourself off from opportunities to learn and grow and expand and to connect with new perspectives, especially perspectives that might open the door to change that you would otherwise be blocking yourself off from. So it's like not hanging so tightly to what you think you know, and to your bias and to your expectations, that you don't allow yourself to benefit from the wealth of information that's out there for you to connect with, right? And so this really kind of connects well with the thinker card, right? And it's like being open to see what your life experiences, what the people around you are showing you, and to figure out what that means to you, how you're going to use that information as you move along your path. Because, and this is also inspiration. So sometimes coming into contact with new perspectives can spark our inspiration, can spark new ideas and new levels of awareness that help us, that help us grow. And so it could be either that you are limited from, you feel that you're limited in terms of opportunities to come into contact with new ideas or to learn new things. Perhaps you're blocking yourself off from connecting to new ideas and new inspiration and new perspectives because you're afraid of what that might inspire in you, right? Because if you come into contact with new information that ends up being life-changing, and it makes you realize like, hey, I really want to do this, but whatever that is scary or very different from what you're doing right now, it could be a fear of change and a fear of kind of like stepping out onto this tightrope and trusting that, you know, you'll have the experiences you need to have and you'll learn as you go. That can be a vulnerable place to be, right? So it could be that this is what you long for and that you want to connect with, but you might be blocking yourself from connecting with it out of fear that it could drastically change your life. So it's like the idea that it could drastically change your life might be exciting, but also scary enough to make you say like, no, I'm good. And yeah, and so you might also have like more opportunities coming in and more kind of connecting with new perspectives that are giving you a different take on yourself or your relationships or your work or the possibilities available to you. And it could start to get those wheels turning in a way that you might feel a little bit blocked off, right? You might feel a little bit hesitant. And the interesting thing is you're being guided to like overcome however this energy is showing up for you as a challenge. It's like to get into your 5 of Wands energy, which is what's the best way that I can put this? It's kind of, I don't want to say aggressive. It's kind of like challenging. It's a challenging energy. So I would say whoever or whatever, if it's you, if it's somebody else, if it's opportunities, whatever is blocking you from being able to learn and grow and to connect with new ideas and to start integrating and applying that information, to start changing the way that you do things as a result of new inspiration that you've come into contact with, whatever is blocking you from either connecting with or accepting or integrating those types of experiences, it's like, I think you need to start challenging it, right? From a place of passion, because whatever it is that you want out of life and whatever you're trying to move toward, it's like you have to have passion and enthusiasm. If you want to experience that in your day-to-day life, you have to connect with it now and you have to allow it to shape, you know, the decisions that you make. So you could very well be challenging other people's perspectives, right? Other people who are maybe standing in the way of you connecting with that or integrating that. It could be challenging yourself to let go of the perceived comfort of what you think you know or how you think life has to be, so that you can start connecting with this energy. Because the Page of Swords is at the beginning of a journey, and it's like it's like recognizing that there is a world of opportunity out there, and there's so much to explore and to be changed by, and being motivated to like take in as much as you possibly can. And you know, the more that you take in and the more that you experience, the more you can figure out like what's true for you, and the more you grow and gain clarity for yourself, right? And so I think it's like being willing to fight for yourself, right? So it's like you might be fighting against or challenging other people and their beliefs. Maybe closed-mindedness of people around you is preventing you from feeling as though you can start kind of stepping out into this opportunity for new insight and awareness. Or it could be like standing up to people who challenge you, who are, kind of poking at you, kind of testing you to see, like, are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you going to value yourself? Are you going to do what feels right to you and to follow your heart? Or can people make you question yourself enough that you will fall into a place of fear, or you'll just kind of go with the flow, or allow somebody else to lead for you. So it's kind of like, you might have to fight yourself or your circumstances or the people around you, to show like that, this is something that you want. This is something that you deserve. Like, I don't really get the sense that you're meant to be a follower, following somebody else's plan and something that makes them happy. So it's like, if it's difficult for you to follow your heart and to do the things that make you feel happy and passionate, and you don't have a big support system encouraging you to start exploring that, I would say, like, you might have to start getting a little bit feisty, right? And I think that if you start testing the boundaries, right? And if you start standing up to the people around you that might be testing you, it's kind of like you're showing them what you're working with, right? And the thing is, at the end of the day, they're either going to accept, okay, wow, this person has a backbone, or this is something that's important to them. This isn't something that I can make them change their mind about, or I'm not going to be able to like manipulate them into doing what I think is right. So it's kind of like, they're either going to accept that and be like, okay, I guess this isn't something that I can do anything about, and they'll kind of give you a little bit more leeway, or they're going to, dislike the fact that you've got your own ideas, or that you want to do something that they don't necessarily agree with, and it's going to put them off and either create a lot of tension in the relationship, or they're not going to want to deal with it. But the thing is, it's like, knowing that if you start standing up for yourself, right, and if you start advocating for yourself and what's important to you, the people who are willing to understand and support you are the people that ultimately are most beneficial for you to have around. And the people who undermine you, or who try to convince you to put your wants and needs aside, or to be fearful of what that might entail, who kind of like can feed on the fact that you might be nervous to step out onto this little ledge here, those are ultimately people that are not going to be beneficial for your growth. And it can be difficult, right? Because sometimes taking a stance, it puts you in that position where people are either going to support you and stay in your life, or they're going to react perhaps negatively and identify themselves as people that maybe need to go, or have less sway in your life. They don't necessarily have to be like out altogether, but maybe people that you kind of acknowledge, like, all right, this isn't someone that I can hang out with that often, or this isn't someone that I can talk to about this thing. So yeah, feisty. And the highest possible outcome for this month, which I love, is the Ace of Wands, which is absolutely a renewal and a new opportunity to connect with your inspiration, your passion, your creativity, the things that light you up and make you feel excited about life, to start acknowledging like what that might look like, how you might be able to lean into that and incorporate more of that into your life. So it's really beautiful, actually, because you've got the Nine of Wands here. Like, this is what has been on your path to date. How has it worked for you? How are you going to get ready to like let go of certain things so you can get ready to start fresh and move in a new direction, right? And you might need to fight for it, but ultimately, this new opportunity here, it's like you can clear out all that old stuff. It's like closing out a cycle, leaving your past approach in the past and allowing yourself to take a new approach to living a more passionate life, right? A life that's going to be more inspired, that you're going to have or allow yourself to have outlets for your creativity. And so it could be like connecting with a new outlet. It could be just giving yourself permission to spend time doing things that make you feel alive, connecting with people. It's like relationships. It can be entrepreneurial. If you've got like some kind of hobby that you might be able to monetize, it could literally be anything, but it is a really, really lovely energy. So it's kind of like, if you can work through identifying this, and like, the thing is, you might have a lot of really difficult emotions connected to it. So I think that's where the thinker comes in, like rational, logical analysis, to help you to help you work your way through the more emotionally charged things, especially if it's emotions connected to yourself, your past experiences, or people around you that are keeping you in a place that maybe isn't super happy or healthy, or maybe isn't allowing you to take inspired action. So logic is going to be your friend this month. So your first affirmation: to truly flourish is to release all the tension that holds me back from letting love pour through me. So yeah, not letting anything stand in your way of connecting with love, for yourself, loving and valuing yourself, expressing love for other people, and acknowledging that anything that blocks you from love, experiencing love and happiness, and feeling as though that's something that is allowed to be a motivator and a main source of enjoyment in your life. That's kind of keeping you stuck, right? And to start judging yourself, not on your productivity per se, but how much love you're experiencing, how much love you feel for yourself, how much love you're able to give and receive, and know that that is going to help you thrive. That is only going to fuel your creativity and your passion, and allow you to move along your path. And then to relinquish control, I simply let loose and allow myself to be more childlike. Yeah, so I love that. And the Page of Swords is a young energy. It's a little immature, but it's also very inquisitive. It's open, right? So it's to be willing to allow life to be your teacher, and to not come into things with preconceived notions or expectations, and to start experiencing things as they are, to see what you can learn, and to take what feels right to you. Oh my gosh, your reading is already super long. Gosh. Okay, let's get you... We've got your oracle card here. So this is from the Crystal Spirits Oracle. You have Moldavite. I don't think I've had this one come out before. Interesting. 5 and 3 is 8, and 44 adds to 8. So these are both 8s. So 8 could be a significant number for you. The month of August might be significant. Maybe keep an eye out for 8s this month. I don't know. But it's interesting because both of your oracles are the same number technically. All right. So Moldavite: transformation, rebirth through fire, initiation, and opening to new experiences, revitalization and renewal. So the book said, new doors open and you cross the threshold. It can be exhilarating to know that you are stepping out of the old and into the new self, ready for unexpected gifts that come with this initiation. Moldavite Spirit's message is to know that as you walk through an open door, you are being reborn in a sense, for you will be different once you have made a conscious choice to say goodbye to what was. Rebirth always involves tension and struggle. Crystals can only form if there is plenty of pressure to change. If you are frustrated or uncomfortable, know that relief is on the way, so just focus on what is happening as a better tomorrow begins to reveal itself. Your passage into the new is assured, so be present, be open, be ready for healing to take place. This new experience requires a new you, in a sense, a you that recognizes that you belong here, that you truly can let go of the old. You are so loved, and the conscious universe is proud of you. Relationship message says, as you transition to a new you, you will become a part of a new group of people, for you are having new experiences that differ from those that came before. Old friends will be there for you, but new ones will appear, drawn to your vibration, which resonates with theirs. Although you are being initiated into a new experience, you will not be alone, so leave your fears at the door. Your community will find you, and you will know that you belong as they embrace you as one of their own. You will feel the love as you adjust to your new role, confident in the potential of those you care about coming along with you. Encourage them to believe that they too can let go of the past and transition to something better. So I really love that, because it's kind of if you're stepping, you might lose people by stepping out into a new version of yourself, but it's trusting that even if that happens, for you to be in alignment, expressing yourself authentically, open to those experiences, you're going to draw in new people. You're not going to be alone. And the people who are still in your life have the opportunity to kind of grow in the ways that you do too. There's a prosperity message. The appearance of Moldavite Spirit is a sure sign that you are closing the door on the past in some way and stepping into a new you, ready for what lies ahead. You will not be alone, and you will encounter many signs that you have what you need and that your foundation is strong. You may feel a little shaky right now. After all, you are not used to this territory, but you've passed the audition, so to speak, and are ready to step into the prosperous life you deserve. Moldavite is a green tektite. This is meditation. Moldavite is a green tektite thought to have been formed when a meteorite crashed in the Czech Republic republic approximately 14.8 million years ago. It is a crystal heralding massive transformation on all levels. This is not a stone to play with or take lightly, and it's definitely not recommended for those unwilling to step out of their comfort zone. Once we engage with Moldavite, we need to buckle up because things are going to get interesting. So it's very much like kind of falling into this energy. So I get the sense that you might be on the precipice of like great change, or ready to kind of step out of an older version of yourself into something new. You might not know what that new looks like. And it might be tempting to kind of like look at the past and stay stuck in that place, but there is an opportunity for you to really like have some kind of fresh start, or new opportunity for self-expression. So I would just say like this might be a really intense month of reflection, reflecting on yourself and your relationships, your work, everything that has kind of been a major part of your life, and kind of weighing what's working, what's not working, what are you feeling drawn to, and what might that look like if you are kind of thinking that there's a change on the horizon, or that might be beneficial to you. So it seems like a very transformative energy. I hope this was helpful for you, Pisces. I'm going to leave your reading there. If you did enjoy this reading, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, or leave me a comment. Beyond that, if there's anyone you could think of that might be interested in these readings, feel free to share my content. And you can head over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Check out some of my other videos. I have a few timeless pick a card readings that can be accessed at any time, in addition to the monthly zodiac readings. And I'm hoping to be putting out more content in the next few months as things settle down for me. And make sure you hit the subscribe button, and also sign up for notifications so you can stay up to date on new videos as they're posted. So Pisces, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a little bit of a trip. I get the sense that May is going to be kind of an adventure for you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading for you again next month. But in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.